Hello everyone, this is Edward from University of Kentucky. So today the topic what we need to discuss is the online study, whether the online study is good or bad, and if it is good, so what's the difference for the different major people who take it. So someone may have some question for this topic, like whether the online study is pretty popular right now, and why we need to pay more attention to this topic. For this question, my answer is yes, because as a college student, we need to use a high technological product to finish our study. Whatever, like use our phone or use our iPads, even the computer, we all need them to finish that. So we can look the video in here. So after we saw the video, and we can realize that online study is pretty popular in our daily life, right? So it's necessary for us to pay more attention to online study, whether it's good or bad for us, and what's the difference for different major people who take it. So let's go to the next part. So let's turn to analyze the advantage and disadvantage of online study. As we all know, internet is a pretty good way to train ourselves, because research is a pretty significant life and career skill for our future. So whoever, like students or teachers, both of them need to do the research on variable things. So there is no reason to refuse to touch the necessary things earlier, right? So the second one is a lower cost. As an international student in here for the traditional class, I almost spend $1,000 for one credit, which is pretty terrible, right? It's a huge number. But compared to the web class, the web class is cheaper than the traditional class, and is cheaper a lot. For example, I might need to pay like 500 for one credit just for the same class as the traditional one. So it's pretty important point for me. The third one is online study strongly expand our horizon. Like internet enable students to access a wider range of resources than would otherwise be available. The next part is the disadvantage of online study. And the first one is less interaction between the students who takes the class. So like for those students who need their doubts be clarified immediately either by their professor or classmates, but they can't because you can't discuss with anybody in web class. So this is a very big problem for them. The second one is the self-intensive requirement for self-subject. The problem is the time management and organization skill necessary to stay on top of your work. Because for the web class, you have a lot of homework need to do. Because in class, teacher cannot give you any practice and give you any suggestion for your doubts. So you need to do that by yourself. So it requires you have a very good time management skill and organization skills. So the reason why I said the online studies advantage is bigger than the disadvantage is that the most of the disadvantage of online study can be overcome and be overpowered by our hard working. Whatever slow our question quickly or do the study by individual or do the research to find what you want, all of them are the way to train yourself, right? And it's gonna be the big help for your future if you can study is very well. But there is a significant point I want to introduce to you guys is that how many benefits you get depends on what you study. Different major have different requests for internet. As me, for example, my major is computer and science. So basically what I study is related to computer and internet so much. So the internet is pretty important for me. Without it, I even can't do any research and can't study. But for some people who study the music major or the sports major, like the basketball, what they need to do to practice to improve themselves is to practice. Even they can get some benefit from the internet, but it's limited. What I mean is like, maybe they can get a new skill from the internet, like the new action, or they can know the details for one action, but what they need to do to like be familiar with that action is to practice, not just see. So I mean that is very limited for them to use the online study. But I mean anyway, online study as a research platform is pretty good for them to use. So there is an interview for my friend who studied the music here.
My major is music, so basically what I study is how to play the instrument well and share rest of knowledge about music. The online study is good, but the benefits of that is limited for me. Even though I can find some information that what I need, but I still need to practice more of that to improve myself.
In conclusion, although online study have some disadvantage, the advantage of online study is bigger than it. It's my personal opinion, but I suppose that there is a lot of people will agree with me. With the development of technology, I mean that there is more and more people will choose the online study rather than the paper study. It's gonna be the future tendency. However, the benefit of online study you get is depends on what you start. It depends on what's your major. I mean that the different major have different demand for internet. To personally, I would like to choose online study, and I wish everybody will have a try about that. So that's all for my video. Thank you for listening.